Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So, the government of a major world economy says that they are preparing to increase taxes on the wealthiest and are ordering reductions in the price of medicines. What's remarkable about this is these are policies from Donald Trump's government. And what's more, they're happy to openly say, yes, these are the sorts of policies Bernie Sanders would back, and we're comfortable with that. A president who attacks radical lefties all the time, that's his phrase, is now adopting their policies. So what happened? But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So it's safe to say that Donald Trump has realised he can't use his original tariff plan to massively slash income tax. Yet he still wants to reduce taxes in order to keep the ordinary MAGA supporters on side. No idea why, when it risks exposing the fact that taxes are not actually their problem. The genuinely problematic taxes are the extortionate private bills they pay for essential public services. But nonetheless, cutting taxes is seen as a good thing in America, and Trump wants to deliver it. But his initial plan was a combination of revenue raising from tariffs and massive budget cuts from DOGE. And although Trump is persisting with both of these policies still, it would appear he's had to downgrade his expectations. This may be why he recently suggested increasing the top rate of tax from 37% to 39.6%. That was a Kamala Harris policy. Actually, before I go on, it is just worth comparing something here. So, top rate of tax in the US is currently 37%, and Trump proposes raising it to just under 40%. It applies on earnings over $2.5 million, or $5 million if you're married, which is a hell of a marriage perk. In the UK, by comparison, our top rate is 45% and payable on earnings over £125,000 or about $165,000. Oh, and if you're married, you can share 10% of your partner's personal allowance if they're not using it, which is worth sweet FA. So a bit of a difference there. This is why you people have no public services, by the way. However, Trump's brush with left-wing policies doesn't end there. I talked recently about how his insistence that Americans might have to get used to quotas on certain items. Like he mentioned dolls and pencils. That's basically a communist idea. Oh, you only need this much. You don't need more than that. But that was a bit tongue-in-cheek. But where Trump seems to be really leaning into left-wing ideology is a credible policy for price controls. He's been reported as ordering pharmaceutical companies to reduce US drug prices. Now, in his first term, he had a similar aim, but his plan was to get Boris Johnson to sign the UK up to buying US drugs. So the NHS would be forced to buy medicines from the United States, even if they were cheaper elsewhere. So those pharmaceutical companies in America could charge whatever they like, and the NHS would have to pay it. Trump's deal with US pharmaceutical companies would be he would hand them over our NHS to milk, and they would reduce prices for Americans in return. That's where we were going if Trump won his second term. And we know Johnson would have agreed to it, because if he allowed Australia to bend him over, of course he would have done anything Trump wanted, to great fanfare from the Tory press, who would also want it, right? Fortunately, although the British public didn't see the danger and actually allowed it to happen in 2019, Americans effectively vetoed it a year later. So we were spared. But Trump not only wants tax reductions for the lowest earners, because they're his support base, he also understands the need to deal with the cost of living. So he wants the lower prices for medicines, which would make a big difference. Only he doesn't have a British cash cow anymore to present to the industry. So now he's just ordering them to reduce their prices. Trump has promised that prices will come down by between 30% and 80%. Now, it remains to be seen what impact this has, because most of his executive orders are meaningless. They're illegal and unconstitutional in many cases. But his order is that the United States has to be the most favoured nation. So the United States has to pay the same price for drugs as the lowest price paid anywhere in the world. Now, whether Trump can actually enforce this or not, let us consider what he's doing. He's trying to tell pharmaceutical companies to either charge Americans less, which is a huge market for them, or pull out of markets which pay less. Either way, those companies will make less profit because Trump isn't offering anything up to compensate for the lost income. He's setting price controls, or he's attempting to set price controls on mega corporations. This is Donald Trump, a Republican president. And here's the thing. His government seem to understand the irony and are comfortable with it. You know, his health gimp, RFK Jr., said that this is his words, this was the fulcrum of Bernie Sanders' run for the presidency. That was his exact words. And he went on to suggest that when he told people about it, they were delighted that Trump's government were pursuing a policy associated with someone that Trump would call a radical lefty. Trump's government is basically saying, yes, we're comfortable with some radical left policies. What about it? Trump's basically adopting a partial left-wing agenda here. Now, none of these policies are in force, but look what he's trying to do. Raise taxes for the millionaires to pay for tax cuts for the lower earners, cutting the cost of medicines, even tougher enforcement of price gouging tactics. I've seen that mentioned. And why? Because his plan A is on fire. I don't know exactly how Trump imagined his DOGE and tariff policies were going to work in detail, but he clearly thought they'd produce much better results than he got. So now he's having to pull the emergency lever in order to keep ordinary struggling Americans on board. And this highlights a couple of quite interesting things. First of all, we've seen this happen in the UK on occasion as well. Notice that when capitalism crashes into a tree like a drunk driver, the right-wing government presiding over it at the time turns to socialism. Thatcher used to say the problem with socialism is you eventually run out of other people's money. The reality is that Thatcher balanced her books by selling off national assets. She was in power for over a decade, didn't grow a single industry in this country, crushed quite a few, didn't grow any. What emerged during Thatcherism? What big economic powerhouse emerged during Thatcherism? Oh, nothing. And the problem with Thatcherism is you eventually run out of national assets to sell off. And then they all turn to socialism. In any emergency, look at any government, what do they do? Don't matter what sort of government it is, they turn to socialism, no matter the government. COVID hit, what did the heirs of Thatcher do? Massive state intervention. Yes, with a load of corruption on the side. A leopard might eat your face, but it won't change its spots. And the second thing this shows is that Trump cares about public opinion still. Trump isn't doing this because he cares about the little people. If he did, he would have helped them out in his first term. Didn't have to in his first term because he didn't set fire to the country as badly. He's doing it because he's just made things way, way worse for them. And he needs a way of compensating for the damage which is now inevitable, even if he walks back his tariffs plan. He doesn't yet feel in complete control. That's what this says to me. He still thinks he needs his public, his cult. That's encouraging because it means leverage over Trump still exists. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.